There are many things people talk about every day: work, relationships, stress, dreams. But money rarely makes the list. Not honestly, not openly. Most people can talk for hours about how tired they are, but freeze when the topic turns to income, debt, savings, spending. Money becomes quiet, uncomfortable. Not because it's unimportant, it's because it feels personal. Money isn't just numbers. It feels like a reflection of worth, of effort, of success, or failure. So we avoid it. We joke about being broke. We change the subject. We keep things vague. I'm fine. I'm managing. It's all good. Even when it's not. And this silence doesn't come from laziness or ignorance. It comes from fear. Fear of being judged. Fear of being exposed. Fear of realizing something we don't want to see. Money has a strange power. It turns invisible pressure into something measurable. And once it's measurable, it feels final. So people delay the conversation, with others and with themselves. They tell themselves they'll look later, when things improve, when they earn more, when life feels calmer. But silence has a cost, because what stays unspoken stays unmanaged, and over time, the silence grows heavier, not because money problems get louder, but because avoidance gets deeper. This is why money isn't just a financial topic, it's an emotional one. And to understand why people fear talking about it, we have to look deeper than numbers. We have to look at where that fear begins. For most people, the fear around money starts early, long before the first paycheck. It begins in childhood, in overheard arguments, in stressed voices, in quiet worries adults thought went unnoticed. Money was never explained. It was absorbed. You didn't learn money. You felt it. You felt tension when bills arrived. You felt relief when something was paid off. You felt shame when something couldn't be afforded. Slowly, money became emotional, not logical, not neutral, just emotional. Some people learned that money was scarce, always running out, always a problem. Others learned that money meant control, or power, or silence. And some learned that talking about money was rude, or greedy, or inappropriate. So the lesson became clear. Don't ask, don't mention it, don't look too closely. Then adulthood arrives, and suddenly, money is everywhere. Decisions depend on it. Freedom depends on it. But the emotional wiring hasn't changed. So, instead of curiosity, there's fear. Instead of clarity, there's avoidance. People don't fear money itself. They fear what money might reveal, that they're behind, that they made mistakes, that they didn't plan well enough. And fear makes the mind protect itself by delaying, by minimizing, by pretending it's not urgent. I'll deal with it next month. I just don't want to think about it tonight. I already know it's bad. But knowing something is bad is different from facing it. Fear thrives in vagueness. It grows when things stay undefined. And money, when ignored, becomes a fog people don't want to walk into. So they stay still and call it patience. Money fear deepens when comparison enters the room. Because money is never just personal, it's social. People compare incomes, homes, lifestyles, even when no one says a word. Social media turns money into a performance: vacations, cars, restaurants, And suddenly, money feels like proof. Proof of doing well or not. This creates shame. Not loud shame, quiet shame. The kind that makes people feel smaller without knowing why. People don't just fear being broke. They fear being seen as irresponsible or unsuccessful or behind. So they hide. They avoid conversations. They avoid statements. They avoid checking balances because looking feels like admitting something. And when identity gets involved, logic loses power. Money becomes tied to self-worth, to intelligence, to discipline, which makes mistakes feel personal, not educational, personal. So instead of learning, people defend. Instead of adjusting, they withdraw. Shame tells them to stay quiet, to keep it hidden, to deal with it alone. But isolation makes money stress heavier because problems grow faster when no one is allowed to see them. And the longer people wait, the harder it feels to start. So fear becomes routine. Not dramatic, just constant. A background weight. Avoidance feels calm in the short term. Not checking feels easier. Not talking feels peaceful for a moment. But avoidance doesn't remove pressure. It delays it. Bills still come. Time still passes. And uncertainty grows. When people avoid money, they don't avoid consequences. They avoid clarity. And clarity is uncomfortable at first, but it's also stabilizing. Without clarity, the mind fills gaps with worst-case scenarios. What if it's worse than I think? What if I've already messed it up? So fear multiplies. Avoidance becomes a habit, a reflex, and habits shape outcomes. Not because people don't care, but because caring without structure is exhausting. Eventually, avoidance stops feeling safe and starts feeling heavy. That's usually the moment people realize something important. Ignoring money didn't protect them. It just delayed understanding. Something interesting happens when people finally face their finances. Not immediately, but gradually. The fear doesn't vanish, but it changes. Because uncertainty is replaced with information. And information, even when imperfect, gives direction. People realize the situation is rarely as catastrophic as imagined, and when it is difficult, at least it's visible. Visible problems can be worked with. Invisible ones can't. Looking doesn't solve everything, but it removes the fog. It turns emotion into data, and data into choices. This is where confidence quietly begins. Not motivation, not excitement, just steadiness. Because clarity creates space, and space allows better decisions. People stop reacting. They start responding. They stop fearing the topic. They start understanding it. And understanding reduces shame. Not because the numbers change overnight, but because honesty replaces avoidance. Talking about money doesn't require perfection. It requires presence. It's not about having everything figured out. It's about being willing to look, willing to ask, willing to learn. Money stops being scary when it becomes familiar, when it's treated as a tool, not a judgment. This is the quiet shift from fear to awareness, from silence to clarity. People don't need loud motivation. They need calm consistency, and money responds well to calm attention. So the next time the topic feels uncomfortable, Pause, not to avoid, but to breathe. And remember, clarity is not punishment, it's freedom.